After 749 times, being reborn, she had to witness it all. The world is destroyed. Even though she tried to stop it with her life, but we're all killed. At the hands of the enemy again and again. The reason they destroy the world is so stupid. Just for fun only. She thought this time she would have to regress and die. But she became an abandoned baby at someone's gate. Just opened her eyes and saw the face of the guy who killed her hundreds of times. Saw him raise his hand to kill her, but she didn't expect to be lifted up and dangling. She has now become a baby. That has the same appearance as their leader. Every time she regresses, she gets rejuvenated. But she didn't expect this time to be so miserable. Became an abandoned child again, abandoned in front of the enemy's mansion. Limited just carried her like that. Then brought inside the house where dozens of servants were waiting. Unexpectedly, Blit, the hero who saved the world, is now being shielded like a sack. She could only hold on to her hatred, but new debts, old debts. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. 10 years. Seeing Limited happily attaching the sparkling interface on his face, the Nick butler immediately stepped out to greet him. So he showed off that he had a baby. The two fathers looked at each other, clearly resembling a monarch. Just hearing the news that I'm going to meet the Demon King in the bathtub was like a thunderbolt. Under the command of that cruel man is the Black Sea Sword. But she is just a lump of dough now. It will take at least 10 more years before she can use her powers. If she meets that guy now, she'll just have to go to the altar and watch naked chickens. Not only that, the next time she reincarnates, she will probably only be a sperm. At that time, no one will hear her cry in her mother tongue. Instinctively, she grabbed the finger that was reaching out, making the butler stunned and then blushing because of this cute comparison. Seeing that this method was effective, she immediately grabbed the Limited's hand. If so, it might extend her lifespan a bit and make that guy's heart skip a beat. Thinking of that perverted bastard who used to enjoy stabbing her asshole, but now he's crazy because she's holding his hand. She doubts life. This guy definitely has multiple personalities. Limited immediately, happily. Rushed into the other person's bathroom without forgetting to take her with him. This extremely sexy muscular guy is Warren Golf, one of the Black Sea Swords. That guy had used his machete to cut off her head before. She still can't forget the feeling at that time. Just thought this name is not an ordinary one. But now he smiled when he saw her in her newborn form. Limited continued to brag about holding hands and asked her to demonstrate for the other guy. Even though she was very angry, am I your toy or something? But if she wants to live, she has to endure humiliation, and grabbed another one. Warren blushed when he saw the extremely cute and soft child in front of him. Even though she was jealous to death, she would never say it out loud. Even this guy said she looked a lot like their monarch. Just cursed under her breath. This group must be cross-eyed. Then she saw her appearance in the mirror. What the hell? Who is this? Suddenly a man stepped out of the door. Looking at this appearance, she immediately realized that he was the brutal man who had sent people to kill her over and over again. Duke of the Empire, King of the Demon World. The one who destroyed the world 1,000 times. Adrian Lucas Bren. Seeing the round lump suddenly appear in her house, Limited pushed her close to his face. He thought that it was the illegitimate child of the Devil King who was playing around outside. It made her want to take her heart out. What the hell did you eat that made you so stupid? You made that guy mad again. But he turned a blind eye and walked past, thinking that the guy wouldn't pay any attention. But unexpectedly ordered, "Take the child away. It's freezing cold outside. If she were left out there, she would freeze into ice." But he was indifferent, as if nothing happened, and put on his shirt. Making her angry, she stretched her arms out towards him and cursed. But the author added a flower effect, making the crowd look dumbfounded. She used her whole life to overcome that evil guy. Before she died, she wanted to strangle that evil guy. She thought this regression would end in a flash. But surprisingly, that Lucas picked her up in his arms, shocking her completely. What the hell? But then Lucas took back what he said as if nothing happened. She used to have a happy life with her lover, but they were the ones who trampled on that peaceful life. But now the evil enemy looked at her with gentle eyes and named the child Eliano. Just woke up. She saw the crowd of servants crowding around like they were watching a wild animal. This regression has made her shrink. Not only that, just a little bit of stress makes me tired and sleepy. A wet nurse named Masa immediately lulled her to sleep. Usually the other children are sent to the dormitory, but only Eliana was allowed to stay at the mansion. It was a home for orphans. They will be trained as living weapons under Lucas. Masa promises to raise her into a beautiful, obedient child. That way she wouldn't have to go to that scary dark dorm. At this moment, there was a shadow lurking outside the door. Hearing the whole story, it has been a week since she arrived at the Devil King's mansion. But she had to lie in the cradle and look at the dragon's butt hanging there. The possibility of taking the Demon King's life in revenge was now completely out of reach. Even the casting of magic is difficult. She used to have a power called penetrating gaze. She could know what was going on at the mansion. If she is lucky, she might find out the secret of that Lucas guy. Saying that, she closed her eyes and focused her energy. But when it was getting to the climax, someone opened the door and walked in. It was Warren staring at her. Looking at that cold, expressionless face, she immediately turned away. Is it possible that my identity has been revealed? His elephant-like appearance now only needs one index finger to pierce her throat. Eliano immediately gathered his strength and reached out to break Warren's arm. But it's just like a cat nudges. But the guy had the illusion that he was being held hands and blushed with pleasure, making her have the illusion that she has regained her extraordinary powers. But because she used too much force, she immediately fell asleep and snored. He felt something was wrong. Suddenly, he had a good feeling for Eli. The reason could be because her face resembles their monarch. Even Lucas is very pleased with Eli. As soon as he returned, he was questioned by Lucas, who stood with his arms crossed and his chest raised. Who did you just hang out with? Warren confessed that he went to see how Eli was doing. But they all suspected that this was Karina's trick. That name is a threatening existence to the Demon King. Therefore, Warren has the duty to monitor Eli's every move, because her sudden appearance was probably related to him. After all, the name Eliano that she was given also has another meaning, which is to be dominated. A few minutes ago, the Shameless Limited came and begged to play the horse-stomping game with Ellie. But she's just a newborn baby. Do you want her to fall down or something? Can't stand that face anymore. It makes me want to go to the toilet. Just wanting to go solve the need made Masa so happy that she cried. What's wrong with these people? So now she has to be surrounded by stuffed animals again. The small body is very inconvenient and can't do anything except vent anger on the teddy bear. Suddenly, there was a loud noise outside the door. She immediately remembered how brutally she had been killed before. And yet those two were now standing in front of her, Babach A and Michaela. Seeing that guy approaching her made her shiver. But suddenly he got excited because Eli looked exactly like Lucas. Babach A just held her hand, and she screamed so hard her soul was about to fly away. Why is it so soft like wet bread? Then that is natural. All children are like that. Even the involuntary drooling is the same. Seeing those people drooling over him, Ellie was embarrassed and wiped his mouth, wanting to find a pair of pants. Mike immediately realized she could understand what she was saying. She thinks this is a once-in-a-thousand-year genius. Saw two idiots acting like bullshit. Immediately made her unable to help but laugh. Made her pay more attention and wanted to adopt her. From the time she was born until now, this is the first time she has heard such shocking news. It turns out she was hooked. But up to now, not even one of the children in her hands has lived long. Mike didn't even care but directly hugged Eli and fought for her. Knowing that Lucas was interested in her, she also exposed it. Maybe it's because I want to find out the color of this child's eyes. Her expression immediately changed, thinking that she was the message sent by Kariha. Use her cute and heartwarming appearance to charm the monarch's heart. Then he immediately used a knife to stab it out. Mike is indeed very sharp and sensitive. Before she could play the escape card, she was beaten by Babach. He took it back and cursed back at her. If you're crazy, how can you raise this child? Do you want to use the child as bait for your human flesh? While the two were bickering, then someone came in outside the door. That is Kotien. Although he has a gentle appearance, he is the captain of the Black Sea Sword. Elise saw him and was very worried, because before this guy was always the one who blocked her every move. This guy's mind is very fast, unlike the others. She immediately smelled a sweet scent from his body. Cannot control, but immediately drool. Kotien put his hand inside his shirt. Maybe there are a bunch of sharp weapons hidden inside, ready to kill her at any time. But unexpectedly, Ellie gave a piece of chocolate to put in her mouth. Make her eyes bright. Ellie had just been fed a bite and immediately shamelessly demanded to be held by Kotien. While he was still deluding himself about his victory, was grabbed by the head and jerked by the girl. Made Babak A and Mike turn pale, in front of his cold gaze that seemed to want to peel off people's flesh and tear them apart. Ely now realized he had been unconscious. Oh no. But because of food, he continued to drag that guy's hair. When Mesa brought the diaper inside, witnessed a horrifying scene. Kotian is still making chocolate for Ely to eat deliciously. Make the maid's hands and feet go limp. Dropped it all on the ground and shouted, "Wait, stop!" Although Masa was shaking like hell, he still wanted to stop Kotian. Because chocolate is not good for babies and young children. A few seconds ago he was still smiling, but in just a moment his eyes turned cold. Seeing him approaching, Masa immediately knelt down on the ground. Kotian returns Ely to the nanny. He approached the person and gave him a warning. If she grows up and intends to harm their monarch, Massage will be buried alive with Ely. Then they all turned and left. At this time she began to regret her gluttony and implicated Masa. Saw Elle make a sad face. The wet nurse promised herself that she would use her life to protect her young mistress. Seeing the maid devoted to her reminded her of the past. When she was walking on the street, she met a mother and child. She looked and could only wish with extreme jealousy, but now there was someone sitting next to Ely to watch over him while he slept. Cody noticed that there was a bit of magic in his hair. Even though she could get past Baba and Mike, she couldn't escape his eyes. If there is even the slightest sign of suspicion, he will not hesitate to poison the chocolate. He immediately went to find the monarch and reported, "Maybe she has a talent for magic. If this talent is nurtured, it will develop into a powerful weapon with the name Demon King." However, they still do not believe 100% that this is just a normal child. The Devil King Lucas immediately put his work aside and wanted to visit the doe to see how it was doing. She saw Edwin still smiling at her in the spring sunshine. But in a flash, the entire scene was plunged into darkness. She could only cry out in despair. Ely just woke up from his dream with tears in her eyes. The servants were in an uproar. Masa immediately picked her up and continuously patted her shoulder gently to comfort her, while she was still crying bitterly. But being praised for being beautiful even when crying made her stop immediately. Before anything happened, the servants were already fantasizing about Eli looking gorgeous in her wedding dress. Being praised so much made her puff up her nose with pleasure. The air suddenly fell silent as Luca's face appeared. He was annoyed that the servants seemed to pay too much attention to Eli. But they dared to disobey his orders, dared to recite 3 or 7 warnings that that thing was not his illegitimate child. All the servants had to bow down and wait for punishment, before the fearsome aura of Lucas. It is true that they were only ordered to take care of Eli, but there was no confirmation that he was the monarch's child. This tense scene reminded her of the past. Her important people all died at the hands of this person. Cannot contain the anger. Her tears welled up. Ely immediately burst into tears. No matter how Masa tried to comfort her, she couldn't stop. The devil immediately frowned in annoyance because of this commotion. He forced Masa into a corner. He wanted to strangle a useless person who couldn't even coax a child. Seeing that, Ely immediately raised his hands to try to push that brutal man away, but kept cursing in his heart. But his mouth could only make the sound "ah-ba-ba." Surprisingly, Lucas's voice started to soften as he wondered what she was talking about. But the wet nurse translated it as she was calling the Demon King father. Made him frown in annoyance. What the hell is she talking about? But still approached the two of them and held out his hand in front of her. Ely immediately hit him fiercely. "Slap, slap, you're dead!" Both Lucas and Masa were stunned, while she was waiting for the most understanding nanny to help her curse this guy. But through Masa's mouth, she became herself again, wanting to have fun with Lucas. This kind of interpreter is dead. The Devil King pondered for a moment, then grabbed her small hands so tightly that he almost wanted to pull her arms away. The servants saw that and immediately added that Elle needed the love of her parents. Because of lack of affection, she cried at night. Ellie must have gotten used to being held by her wet nurse every day, so to strengthen their bond, Lucas should also hug her. The other guy didn't know when he was there, but he popped his head out and started pushing. Ignore her screaming and struggling. But Lucas grabbed Ely and hugged her as she tried to push him away, her whole body shaking. This ivory body had been stained twice. She got angry and beat him continuously. Whatever passed through the servant's mouth became Ely playing happily, while she was fighting the Demon King with all her life, but was told that she only acted when she felt happy. Lucas immediately returned her to Masa. The humiliation from today was added. She promised herself that once she regained her strength, she would personally kill this evil zombie king. At this moment, the servant encountered something she never expected in his entire life. Lucas thought he was cold-blooded, but he looked drunk and smiled very gently. Blit had to regenerate hundreds of times just to save the world. But now she has become Elieno Bren, daughter of the villain. On the day of the central meeting at the mansion, Lucas was so crazy about his daughter that he held Ely in his arms in front of everyone. Now when asked if the child is his illegitimate child or not, Lucas was no longer visibly upset, but immediately nodded, making the Black Sea Sword team gasp in surprise, but he admitted it. But for Ely, it's extremely annoying. She tried her best to escape from the devil's hand. Limited has believed that she realized her discomfort. But when Ailey struggled, the Devil King was still sure that the girl liked him. Then he revealed his face that he felt that Ailey's clinginess was annoying, but his mouth was smiling from ear to ear. Unable to hold back, she laughed heartily at her father's face. He must have forgotten to take his medicine. But Eloi's smile immediately disappeared when she learned that she would become the princess of the Bren family. Even though she fell into despair and pain, Mike was crazy with joy because his prey was getting closer and closer. Ellie, of course, saw through that bastard's heart and couldn't stop cursing. Yet Warren stood next to her, could not bear it any longer, and reached out his hand. Even though she didn't know what the hell was going on, she grabbed it reflexively. Made everyone there silent, with a look of contempt for the saints on Warren's face. The devil saw his daughter holding hands with a boy and was extremely jealous, glaring at him. Then it was his turn, even though he wanted to ignore it, but still stubbornly waved in front of her. Ely could only hold on, feeling extremely tired. Am I a joke to you guys? Queen Janna's birthday party is in a few days. She is the Emperor's only daughter and the cause of the world's destruction. Lucas marries Duena while being controlled by the Emperor, but that bitch betrayed Lucas. I don't know the deep reason behind it. I just know that since then he turned dark. This old man wants to kick Ely out. Even if you are a princess, this is an important lesson to please the queen. But the trick immediately came back to her. She was Lucas's beloved daughter. As a noble princess, why is she not qualified to attend this meeting? The matchmaker for the two was Jacadon, one of Lucas's retainers. With his ruthless personality, the Emperor also respected him as a strategist. I see he is too old, so he is confused. Mike's group immediately made faces as if they were eyeing prey. This time, it's really tense as a bowstring. Even though they often get angry, the bloodthirsty Black Sea Sword is no joke. Luckily, Codian calmly told the others to keep their tempers in check. He is truly a very professional captain. Still keep calm with him. Jacadon thought that Ili was just picked up from the gate and her origins were unknown. How could she be a princess like that? Where would the Bren family hide their face? But Sen laughed at his face. What do you think? But the reason is still stupid. Old Caden also has nothing to do with seeing that he doesn't care about his words. Codian immediately kicked back. I thought that position was all about the name but no substance. Ely just sat watching the play but was frozen by the cold face. But the eyes seemed to shine with the desire to devour people alive. The death of Carden is the beginning of a series of massacres. Lucas will have many enemies. If he is attacked, she will also die. But at this moment, he suddenly mentioned the land of Rohan at the southern end of the Rabia continent. The area where the dragons appeared was a wasteland where jungles and deserts coexisted. But what does that have to do with this tense situation? Watch out and don't change the subject to escape. The reason he mentioned crashing the boat was because their Lord Lucas would have to go there. For the sake of Bren's prosperity, the most appropriate time to marry the queen is on Jenna's birthday. But that is an extremely difficult person. With normal cable things cannot please her. So it is necessary to find treasures in the untapped continent of Rohan to offer up. What he said was indeed true, because in her previous life, the queen was very pleased to receive tributes. But still can think of him. It's true that having a head is not just for show. But Kotian suddenly went crazy, and how could he let his army do such a thing so that the Lord would have to flatter that woman? Smelling danger somewhere, Ely immediately crawled towards it with all her might and hugged Kotian's arm. She hoped he can calm down and spare her life, but suddenly realized she had done something stupid. She thought I would have to say goodbye to my beautiful life here. Warren was so touched that he cried. Oh my God! The princess took the initiative to hug him, made Ely speechless. Forget these guys are all brain dead. But the father was so angry that his intestines popped out. Ely has never taken the initiative to hug me before. He immediately warned Kodian to restrain himself. But while he was filled with murderous intent, wanting to swallow people whole, making El even more afraid than Kotian. If we want to prevent the destruction of the world, we need the land of Rohan. I absolutely cannot let it fall into the hands of the Grammars because this could be my last reincarnation. So El decided to open her mouth and speak, surprising the old man. Even though the stuttering voice is disgusting and scary, there is no other way. But in Lucas's ears, it turned out to be a girl praising him, as old Cacton immediately slapped his face, obviously talking about the land of Rohan, make Ely happy, finally found a soulmate who understands her. But Limited teased him. Just now he wanted to chase the princess out. Now the next sentence is kicking the previous one. Lucas sadly stopped those two immortal chattering mouths, his heart dying. They all moved into the study to let Ellie use pen and paper to write. She finally managed to scribble out what she wanted to say. Must reach the land of Rohan. That place is spacious and has many expensive minerals. If you give it to the queen, you will be rewarded with the possession of that land. Not the content but the writing. What makes their jaws drop? Ailey forgot he was a child and started writing calligraphy. This bet is a failure. While Ailey closed her eyes, she thought her neck would be broken. The silly father was moved to tears because his daughter was a genius. The whole group fooled themselves that Ellie had learned it from the books Massa read to her, but still sober enough to realize why a brat would know about Rohan territory. Before their suspicions, Elle knew it was beyond saving. But situations like this just call for a confident smile. It was this cuteness that hit the hearts of three men straight in the head. She immediately signaled to Warren. While she was disgusted with herself, a hot photo was released to Ailey's strong questioning. He used the magic of moment storage to capture the moment. That's her series of extremely nauseating expressions. Has been passed down to future generations. She acted so embarrassed that she wanted to put her pants on her head, but they still wouldn't let her go. But inquire to the end. This could be some kind of dream power of Izzy's. But the information was still too vague, asking Ali to tell them more. She had to use her ultimate move. But seeing her actions, the whole group did not understand what was going on. Although he can write, her speed is slower than a turtle's. So they called Massa. Because she is a nanny, she will probably understand what Elle wants to say. But Massa is not a sign language reader, so she can't understand it and is trembling. But this time, Lucas was so kind that she just let it go. Remembering how he wanted to rip the wet nurse's head off before, time can really change a person. At this time, Kotian brought a person. It was a dark-skinned boy named Theogar. This kid is the leader of the gang in the dormitory. Ely did not expect that among the children Lucas raised after growing up, he was the only one who did not betray him. Not only that, but in all her lives, Thea was the one who protected Lucas. Yet we were able to meet each other so early. After Massa was ordered to leave, the boy immediately looked worried. According to the news, the illegitimate son of the monarch outside was delivered to the door without shipping costs. In front of him was Princess Eliana, with an appearance very similar to the monarch of the group. The mission of the following is very simple. That is to explain her babbling again for everyone to understand. Of course the boy couldn't refuse, so he bowed and accepted the order. But it's not certain that it can be exactly like what the owner said. Although Kotian has praised her to the sky, she is a great genius. But when hearing Ellie's true feelings, using her pretty beak to curse people, follow the instructions and get sprayed with glue. Even if the kid were reincarnated 10 times, he wouldn't dare translate it. He would have to make it up to cover it up. Immediately won Warren's trust. But Kotian still felt something was wrong. Clearly his ears were itching, and he immediately received a loving look from the Demon King. After listening to Ely's curse play, the boy couldn't help but laugh. She immediately noticed that Thea's attitude seemed to be pretending to avoid it. If she really heard it, there was no need to hide it anymore. Thea then translated about the land of Rohan. Unknown fissures, contains both minerals and extremely rare gems. There are not only dragons but also top craftsmen. If you can make friends with them, you will make a lot of profit. No mistake, no stumble. It is true that the ability to communicate with creatures that cannot speak, it's really top. Elle immediately grabbed Thea and wished that they could become good friends in the future. First was Cacton and then Thea. Ely planned to make them his subordinates. Kotian is still skeptical about this ability. The boy also did not know why he could hear animals and babies since he was little. Of course, they didn't easily believe Thea's words. The devil thought that the boy had used his daughter's name to make up the story because Raph was already dead. So it is completely absurd, that a race has died out since 150 years ago still exist. It was also because the emperor had enacted the policy of racial cleansing. Raf was the first victim to be expelled. The lucky few who survived had to struggle as slaves for the nobles. But the important thing is that now no one believes that Elle is the once-in-a-lifetime genius. She didn't need them to think so much about it. Just listen and follow orders. This was the first time the boy had met someone like her. Not only was she younger than him, but she also had the status of a noble princess. Compared to Thea, they were in two completely separate worlds, yet Ailey needed someone like him. Thea is a poor child with no father or mother, so he was always bullied by kids because of his skin color. You need to do your job well and dare to talk back to the monarch. You can bring another animal and child to verify, but as a parent, you have to trust Eli. The boy's words moved her. She was so sad that it had been so long since she had heard such warm words. Eli immediately turned on the filter and her sparkling eyes enticed the boy to go out into the garden with her. The big deal was not yet done when Kotiti intervened to ruin it. Eli's innocent smile suddenly turned into a curse. Made Thea startled. Saw the guy taking advantage of hugging his daughter. Lucas immediately flew into a rage and stared at that guy as if he wanted to eat him alive. Seeing the resentment rising, the guy immediately poured it on Thea's head. Thea is not a trustworthy person. He just wants to protect the princess. Seeing him so tense, Eli immediately used a trick to flatter him. Thea also quickly seized the opportunity to translate. Hearing what he wanted, Lucas immediately trusted the boy. He said. The princess invited him to go for a walk in the garden. From Eli's experience, she concluded that if she just acted cute with these guys, everything could be solved. But now that I have a powerful assistant, I don't need to do those disgusting things anymore. While she was still happy because the plan was gradually developing. But the young father was too harsh, thinking that the girl he had just met had invited the guy out on a date. Even if he goes to hell, he will not accept this. Ellie was speechless and asked Thea to translate. If Lucas didn't allow it, she would never call him Dad again. But until now, when Ellie spoke, he couldn't understand anything, so he couldn't collapse. She and Thea were finally able to go out into the garden, even though the boy was woken up in the middle of the night to listen to the other guys talk nonsense, but he still didn't feel annoyed or complain, because he owed the monarch a favor. When he thought he was dead, Lucas adopted him. Even if he only live in the dormitory, if he is a useless person, he will be thrown away. Even though the training was difficult and the rules were different, Thea was very grateful for her current life. He didn't want to go back to that time at all, just like a beggar letting others beat him without the strength to fight back. So finally, Thea was useful because of her ability, also thanks to Elle's appearance. But even so, he became a knight captain in the past because he wanted to be an informant for the Demon King. Unlike those who eat rice and bite the hand that feeds them, but give their lives for the monarchy, behind that is a long story. Elle was deeply moved when she realized 3 old men are hiding and eavesdropping for the silly reason of Ailey's safety. But luckily, there was good news. She was approved to go to the land of Rohan. That's the best news I've heard since she regressed. Not only that, but from today, Thea has been appointed as Ailey's personal assistant, interpreter, and bodyguard. If she lost a single hair, he would bury Thea alive to atone for his sins. He was too grateful. This is my chance to repay this favor, and he promised to protect Elle with his life. Finally got something done. This is the first time he got to eat shaved ice. Her plot is, to get the heart, she has to go through the stomach. Just feed the boy, and he will become her. But Thea innocently thanked Ailey with all her heart. Not only was he removed from the dormitory, he also got to stay in a luxury room. His gratitude was probably understandable, because before Thea had to live in a dirty and filthy building. Ailey immediately patted her chest to assure, from now on, I will give him good food and nice clothes. They were chatting when suddenly Babach A interrupted. Thea was a little worried because she saw 2 huge hammers on his back, but his face was smiling brightly, so she was a little scared. It turns out that Babach A is on his way to the dormitory. Today is the day that he takes charge of training the little ones to teach them how to fight. But they are all young shoots trained by Babach A. So everyone is professional. Just stand and watch. Elle suddenly remembered something and wanted to go sightseeing. Babach A looked dumbfounded like a stupid boy because he didn't understand what she was saying. After being translated, he was so happy that his eyes sparkled. The dormitory is probably full of talented people. They are all living weapons of the future Demon King. Therefore, we must quickly find good people to collect and bring back to work as minions. Just now she was so excited, now she was frowning. Inside is extremely harsh. There is cockroach garbage. Then the network was full of noise. This place is not good for pigs, let alone people. There was a noise that attracted them. Inside, the children were all worried and anxious. Babak A immediately became aggressive, walked over, just a glance gave the order. Must take away that unconscious child. Babak A accidentally wanted to throw the child away, but was stopped by the remaining group. The dying child was perfectly healthy. It was only after eating the poisonous mushroom dish that it became like this. So as long as there is an antidote, it will be fine. But Babak A is not so easily fooled. They have been fed and have a place to live, but now they have learned to make up stories. How could the food they provide be poisonous? Perhaps this happens very often. If the children are of no use, they will be thrown out into the suburbs according to the order. This is understandable. Because they are the Devil King and the Black Sword, how can they have compassion and forgiveness like Bodhisattva? She immediately ordered Thea to carry her to the dying child. After observing the child's difficulty breathing, her face turned red. The fingers are shaking, this is a clear symptom of poisoning. Ely immediately realized that the poisonous mushrooms were the ones she ate herself. That made Thea's great surprise. But after looking in the direction her hand pointed, she saw some red mushroom fragments inside the child's pocket. And perhaps she understood something. Maybe eating poisonous mushrooms is to become stronger. If this mushroom can withstand its toxicity, it will become stronger. After the others knew about the story, they all covered for her, so she dared to lie. If it were Thea, he would do the same, because they are all orphans. After escaping that dirty dead end, who would want to go back a second time? Ellie could only grit his teeth and do nothing. This was the last regression if he used the healing technique on this child. If Babak A catches her, he might cut off her head. But suddenly, Ailey was grabbed by the child. Then she begged for help while tears streamed down his face and he struggled to breathe. It reminded her she had been foolish enough to eat poisonous mushrooms to become stronger because she wanted revenge. Ailey couldn't help but thought first. If he was lucky enough to save this child, perhaps when she grew up, she would have a powerful assistant. She immediately recited the spell to Thea's utter astonishment. Then the little girl quickly woke up. Seeing the children cheering, she could only let out a sigh. Elle immediately went to talk to Babak. You're old, don't bully children. Otherwise, I'll go to the parents to show them. Babak A immediately became anxious and could not bear it because that girl definitely had a problem. Elle started to make an offer. If he cleaned up the bamboo price and let the little girl eat well, she would really like Babak A. Seeing that guy's attitude was completely different when facing those kids who were acting like servants. There was a jealous blonde guy who looked at them viciously. That night, the two of them played with teddy bears together. But Elle was worried that Thea didn't ask anything about her healing magic. Ely tried not to be exposed at that time, but the kid was so close that he could have seen everything. She immediately tightened her grip on the teddy bear in her hand, afraid that Thea would go and tell the devil. Let's say something, but the silence and dangerous look made Ailey nervous to death. When the little boy opened his mouth to ask something, then someone broke in and ruined the party. It turned out that Lucas was furious and rushed inside. It turns out that useless Babak A dared to tell on Ellie about her coming to the dormitory. She also nodded, not wanting to refuse. The third white guy has already told on you, now he's speaking up for you. But Lucas doesn't listen now. He immediately gave it a loving look. Mike and Babak A just now knew to be quiet and shut their mouths. The first to be questioned was Thea. He himself was assigned to look after and protect Elle, but still let her go here and there, not thinking about her safety. Seeing Lucas punishing the innocent, Elle was indignant and offered to help. Grabbed Thea's shirt and told the boy to turn her over. Heard Ely say she really liked the dormitory and wanted to go there often. All three of them were shocked. Who would like that dirty pigsty? The father, still conscious, quickly dismissed Elle's idea. Elle had no other choice but to use her ultimate move. She pretended to be cute and flattering with a cute face and sparkling eyes. It was because she was curious. The adorable appearance shocked the three people again. How can there be such a cute creature in the world? Even Thea got caught up in the mess and forgot she always had to translate. But this guy's crazy. He say Elle wants to live in the dormitory. Makes her stupid. Get a full monthly salary and do business like that? Faced with the daughter's request, the father immediately agreed, but ordered someone to arrange the room to be as clean as a five-star hotel for Ely. Although it's a bit wrong, but when she's there, the kids will be able to eat better food. Elle will be the boss then. By teaming up to defeat the Demon King, that is the perfect plan. But she regressed 100,000 times and still didn't expect that Lucas would like his daughter so much that he would even move into that dormitory. The idea of going crazy like that was flattered and praised by the other two. Not to mention those two leopards want to pack up and go with them. Where is the future vision of her dominating the world? Wanting to give the little ones freedom and peace. But now the great Demon King has arrived. Those guys will be wiped out in no time. Just thinking about it makes me feel scared. The room is decorated in a very warm pink color with soft blankets. It was all arranged by Mike herself. Although it was a bit smaller than the mansion, it was still wonderful. Ellie is also very satisfied with this super large 2-meter wide bed. Before leaving, her father still lingered and gave me many instructions. Elle smiled brightly and waved her hand, but inside she was cursing, "Hurry up and leave!" They just turned away. She immediately revealed her true nature as a fake innocent. This is really disgusting. Luckily, when Lucas asked to come along, she quickly stopped herself. Just going for a week, please, wait at home. That's how she escaped a disaster. Elle is determined to reform this abandoned house in this short time, become the most spacious. Now the kids can sleep 7 hours a day and their clothes are new. The bed sheets have been changed. Training is no longer rigorous and exhausting, all thanks to Ely. By dinner time, everything was laid out in front of us with delicious food. Elle sat there, satisfied, seeing the children's reactions with great interest. She immediately asked for an interpreter after everyone gathered in her direction. The boy had just conveyed that Ellie would take care of them without missing anything. No one will be abandoned anymore, so live freely and love life. But the little guy translated too much again. After all, do you have a certificate or not to do this job? But unexpectedly, it made the other group move to tears. Although it was a bit unexpected, it was an easy success. It was beyond expectations. Suddenly, the girl next to him started talking to Ely. It was Zeroin. She was the one who was stupid enough to eat poisonous mushrooms and almost died. Thanks to Elle's help, the child is now completely healthy. To repay her favor, Zeroin immediately took out a basket of gems as a gift. But Elle recognized at first sight that it was a dragon egg. There was no mistaking it. She didn't expect such a rare and precious thing to be collected by Zeroin, thinking it was a stone. Because nobles always wear precious stones on their bodies, so she wanted to give it to Ely to repay the favor. Seeing her silence, the child immediately thought she was being criticized and took back her words. But how could Elle pass up this bargain? She had completely won the favor of the children. Although it was not intentional, she had collected dragon evidence. Only the blonde guy made a nasty face. Suspect her kindness is hypocritical. This kid's treatment is just for show. How long will it last? A week or a month or just a passing fancy for Ely? Among the children in the dormitory, there was one who came from a noble family. Because of bankruptcy, it was considered a thief. But it accidentally caught the attention of Limited and was brought back. It's this blonde guy, Alex. Because of his background, he's brash and easy to understand. After being reminded by another child, he immediately turned to attack Ailey. What kind of princess dresses like a country girl? Elle was also very angry but ignored it. Make that kid get ignored and embarrassed. But when another child advised him, "If you're hungry, eat quickly, why talk so much?" immediately touched his pride and stood up. She was extremely dissatisfied and rushed forward. It was just that she was lucky to be able to leave the mansion gate. The starting point was the same, so how did she become a princess? Thea immediately stood up to protect Ely, forced that guy to apologize for his rude way of speaking. For Alex, Thea is not limited, so she has no right to order him around. Thea is nothing. Stop being so arrogant. He was not afraid of him. He said frankly that he was in a new position compared to before. Now, he had become the princess's bodyguard. But Alex still didn't stop and mocked that he wasn't even as good at swordsmanship as him. So how different was that? Truly a perfect match for this fake princess. Ali was able to see through this kid's heart. The guy was just hungry and angry. He was just being stubborn. When someone told him the truth, he immediately denied it, but his stomach rebelled and growled loudly. Elle immediately took a chocolate out of his pocket and gave it to him. Although this is a bit rare, but she took it to bribe Alex to shut up. The boy immediately remembered the past when the clan was still prosperous, also fed by Mother regularly. but the fake princess has that rare chocolate. Look at Ely using chocolate to bribe Alex. But Thea immediately remembered that she had promised him something, but still nothing had happened. Immediately angry, Lei turned away before the bewildered Ellie, although it looks very tempting. But Alex still ran away with a huff. She looked at the chocolate in her hand being rejected. Never mind. If you don't eat, then I will eat. On the other side, the Demon King was sitting and studying the paper Elle wrote, very seriously, making the Warren standing next to him sweat. But he wasn't thinking about what she wrote. It's just that the young father started to miss his daughter. Lucas immediately picked up Ely's letter and looked thoughtfully at it, but only understood a few words. They want to know more about the situation. Immediately called Kotian. After all, he was the head trainer at the dormitory, so he might know something. But the guy who just appeared surprised everyone. He's old, but still wears yellow duck pajamas, making the two people speechless and determined to accept acquaintances. Waiting for Kotian to urge them to hurry up, only then did he give it. As soon as he saw the letter, the guy froze for 3 seconds. Was the monarch cursed or something? His handwriting looked exactly like a worm's. This is the letter Elle wrote carefully after working tirelessly every night to write a complaint to his father. Sick children were left lying around in crooked graves. So she made a reform. Increasing rest time has helped children increase their productivity. They never expected that just by changing their environment the kids could develop so much. In just a moment, Elle has gained the trust of the kids at the dormitory. That is the quality of a leader. But tomorrow Elle returned to the mansion. Kotian immediately wanted to give a pair of golden chicken slippers exactly like that as a congratulatory gift. Not a bad idea. The old father was immediately immersed in his imagination seeing his daughter in a yellow chicken outfit, so cute. But she was here just thinking about having a dragon egg and smiling happily. The immortal dragon Shichi, when she died, leaves behind a stone-shaped egg to deceive the world. She never thought something so precious could be owned without spending a penny. While she was still immersed in joy, Thea entered the room. He came to report that the children had all gone to bed. But from that day on, Thea's attitude became strange. Unexpectedly, the boy said that if Ellie liked Alex, she could kick him out. She immediately realized that this child also knew how to be jealous of others. She took out a box of chocolates from her bag. Thea is her right-hand man, so she must have something better than that guy. This thing was snatched by Elle from Kotian. Even though he cried until he had no more tears, she still wouldn't let go. Thanks to her father's support, she was able to get Kotian's box of chocolates. She gave it to Thea. Elle immediately promised that when he grew up and could rule the world, she would give him more precious things. So Thea had to loyally become her henchman. Thea was so moved that she almost cried. He didn't know what else to do, but said thank you. Neither of them noticed that behind them, the egg had started to glow. When she started to grow up a little, Lucas announced to the world that Ely was his only princess. So from all directions, flattery was sent in droves. Luxurious carriages kept coming to the Bren mansion. But no matter what, Elle never put them in his eyes. The shameless person who came to find him was Count Carlos Jovian. That guy even brought his daughter to have an excuse to be a bridge. Look at Lucas's cold face. Little girl almost peed her pants, but still have to pretend to smile. But his attention was only focused on that sparkling outfit. Then with his loving eyes, Lucas knew the address. The famous tailor's address scared the fat guy to death. So just a few days later, the whole group gathered together to admire Ailey's new dress. Now she looks like a princess. But not only did she not like it, she also felt uncomfortable. Because the princess's outfit was no different from a walking doll, but she had to endure it because of the destruction of the world. Seeing Thea constantly glancing at her, she immediately asked her to say something. Unexpectedly, he praised it as very suitable for Ely. He talked about his handsome, pubescent face. That moment reminded her of her lover's figure. For a moment, she lost his mind in the clouds after hearing Thea's praise. She immediately woke up and was fascinated by her expensive dress. Suddenly, Butler Nick came in from outside to announce that the royal messenger had come to visit. So Lucas needs to dress smartly for the reception. Ailey immediately volunteered to follow. Because she has waited for this moment for so long. So this messenger Robert came to ask for a birthday gift for Queen Jenna. But Lucas was a jerk and only cared about pampering his daughter. Ely felt his hand poking her and felt annoyed. Then grab a hold to stop. But for the father, he thinks that even though his beloved daughter is grown up, She still keeps the same habit as when she was in diapers. The messenger was an outsider and immediately understood Ailey's eyes were not likable. Lucas suddenly noticed something that made the messenger happy. But he didn't even bother to put that name in his eyes. What woke up the Demon King was the feeling that Elle's head was missing something, leaving her speechless. He immediately ordered someone to prepare some expensive things, like a headband to attach to her head. Make the messenger despair always. But his head started to race, and he immediately came up with an idea for Elle to wear a ribbon. But it was a huge one that left her speechless. What kind of cheesy fashion is this? Lucas's thoughtfulness made the messenger break out in a cold sweat. But finally the news made that guy happy, thinking that he would be able to discuss politics. But unexpectedly, Lucas asked Kodian to prepare the ribbon immediately. Not only that, but it must be a super large size. That is worthy of his daughter. Lucas said and did, then carried Ailey away, ignoring the screaming messenger. Seeing Lucas turn back to look, he thought he would change his mind and give him some advice. But unexpectedly that guy was warned. She was finally dressed in a cropped outfit with a purple bow. In a fit of anger, Elle locked the crazy old man outside. She angrily threw the bow away, then tired lay down on the bed. Indeed need to actively find the messenger, but will surely be stopped by Lucas again. Thea, who has been following her for years, realizes that Ailey is worried about something. If there is anything, just give her an order and he will try to complete it. Ailey didn't expect him to be so devoted to her. But she couldn't bear to let the job go wrong because Thea had also died many times like her, so she couldn't be cruel at all. Meeting him was a lucky thing for her. Otherwise, Ailey would have gone crazy with those people. She just smiled. To thanks, Thea. But Lucas went crazy and broke the door. Thea was dragged out just because Ailey smiled at the boy. Makes her want to go crazy. This house is not normal, so take medicine. She immediately cursed and beeped, chasing her father out again. He was devastated when his daughter entered puberty. Still not at ease that night, Lucas immediately attacked and entered the inner room, while Ellie was sleeping soundly. The older she gets, the more she looks like Lucas. Suddenly, Ailey grimaced uncomfortably. Kodian was just about to check, was stopped by Lucas and chased him away. Seeing the daughter more and more painful, Lucas immediately looked worried. In the dream, their village was attacked by the monsters. Before her were the bodies of her loved ones, lying in a pool of blood. When one swung a weapon at her, there was a woman who stood up to help her. See that person die right before your eyes. Bliss, though, trembled, still holding the knife, and rushed straight towards the snail. When she realized she was already in the arms of the Demon King, he kept reassuring her. Because Elle's tears were streaming down from the nightmare. The next morning, though calmed down, but she still couldn't understand Lucas's painful expression at that time. Even though he considers Ellie his daughter, she is not his biological child. Squeeze the dragon egg. She immediately remembered the image of the person in the tavern who died instead of her. It was all because of the Demon King. Elle immediately sat up when he heard the familiar voice. It turned out that Limited just pushed the door open and entered my real sister. That guy came to visit the sick, but kept talking non-stop. The trouble had just come and another huge debt appeared. Lucas's usual tall and handsome appearance was gone. Only black darkness remains. He immediately called someone to come in. So a bunch of people appeared and stood in a line. Because Ailey had a fever last night, he immediately sent a team of doctors. But the thing to say is that Lucas kidnapped someone without permission. Make them tremble. But just let those people stand there and play. Because Lucas didn't need a doctor to diagnose himself that the disease was due to puberty. Making the whole bunch of doctors speechless, he said, "What is this?" But still love this life, so dare not speak up, making the atmosphere gloomy. Seeing that no one volunteered for the job, Lucas took out his reward to bribe. But those people, even if they cried blood, would not want to take this job. Limited immediately threatened, "You don't drink the offered wine, but you want to drink the penalty wine?" So the whole group pushed each other and grabbed the front of the car. Seeing them, Kodian used a sharp knife to threaten them. "You guys can't help but push me to death." Ailey now felt the seriousness of the problem. But now her head is so messed up I don't know what to do. But after Lucas thought for a long time, immediately went to stand in front of Ailey and stood against the cold to ask her, "Are you not sick?" Ailey immediately confirmed, but her heart was filled with fear, not knowing what would happen next. Lucas's gaze from above was terrifying. Immediately reached out to make Elle startled. But then he hugged her into his arms and breathed a sigh of relief. Because if something happens to his only daughter, Lucas doesn't know what to do. But that made her startled, and the image of her loved ones appeared. Ely immediately used magic to push Lucas away, made him dumbfounded. She herself was surprised because her hands were faster than her brain. The other people quickly rushed to check on Lucas's condition. Ellie knew it was over and this life was over. Codian worriedly looked at Lucas, who was sad about life. They immediately mentioned the suspicion that Ellie was Kuriha's henchman. That was the same doubt that Lucas feared before. Warren, standing next to him, also added, before the evidence was given, so that he looked at Ellie's childhood photo, frowned extremely tense. She was outside eavesdropping. Although I tried to hide it for so many years, I was foolish for an hour. Before anything could happen, the prospect of being butchered by those people appeared. Ellie had difficulty deciding to knock on the door, then tremblingly stepped inside. To Lucas's surprise, at this point, she had no other choice. Holding Ellie's photo in his hand, Lucas kept looking at it from morning to night without getting bored, and then kept asking her to repeat the words of that night. Elle tried to hold back her anger and said each word tremblingly because she saw Lucas injured in her dream, was so scared that she did that. Even though she said it, he still wasn't satisfied. Then put on a happy face to remind her that she was missing something. Even though Elle's face was completely black, she still made a cute gesture and shouted, "Dad is the best." She pointed to the location on the map where the golden snake had appeared. Ely was also allowed to join the meeting while sitting on her special one-of-a-kind chair. They all assumed that it was her ability to predict the future. Only old Cacton pondered for a while, although that item was very good. But it is an extremely dangerous area where mortars dominate. But those crazy guys are not afraid of anything. If there is a dispute, just cut off their heads. Even though they have lived together for many years, she can never get used to their habits. She stood up tiredly. Everyone was focused on Elle, who was carefully writing each word on the map. Edwin had said before that the princess was very fond of the tribute knight's golden snake. Although it is not right to steal other people's roles, there is no other way. Finally done. Ely took out the map with the safe route marked on it. Cacton was also surprised that she was a genius at this age and could already read maps. After solving the strategy, Elle breathed a sigh of relief and hugged her dragon egg. But as soon as they heard that she wanted to go to Johann, they all stopped her. Everything was going well, right? Ellie stood up angrily. He always threw her up in the air, but now he was stopping her from going. What's worse is that Lucas wants to come along too. Just like that, the Black Sea Sword's henchman also wanted to follow. Her plan was ruined. In the time of danger, Elle had to point to Limited's direction, wanting that guy to be the one to go with him because he was the stupidest one in the group. But Limited Luyan thinks that he is more beautiful than others, but has no interest in Lolita. So she should put that feeling aside. Seeing that, Cardo broke the game and shouted to vote for who would be the lucky person. The father was very happy when he heard this and was confident that he would win and agreed, made her cry until she had no more tears. Codian got 7 votes in the vote. The odds were in favor of Limited getting 8 cards, just as she had originally intended. Seeing his daughter and that guy happily celebrating, the father died inside. Yet those traitorous entourage didn't even bother to vote for him even 1 vote. The two turned away and left to pack their bags, leaving the stunned father behind. But Lucas's attention was immediately drawn to a piece of paper. Ellie wrote down a bunch of Bihan's names. She returned to her room, quickly packing her things. The day has finally come. When Elle first came to this mansion and met Limited, she thought that this life was over. But unexpectedly, it went so smoothly for Johann that she was so happy that she trembled. Thea saw Elle happy and felt happy too. Suddenly there was a little whispering outside. Went back to see and saw Lucas and Limited standing below arguing fiercely. Ailey was so tired of this scene, but unexpectedly the carriage just kept going. She couldn't believe it and opened her eyes wide to see. The car had already left while Ailey was still standing there. She had no choice but to run out, calling Limited's name over and over again. Saw Lucas standing there without even bothering to hold the other guy back to wait for her. He immediately broke the paper and threw it down. He stood there with his chest puffed out, telling her to choose him over 2 stupid yellow-headed men. Limited. Ely's thread of reason snapped. Unexpectedly, Lucas would repeatedly hinder her plans because of these ridiculous lies. Ely looked up at the large, intimidating figure standing before him. While she is now just a very small child, she hates and resents even more. Thea did not expect that E would get angry and insist on going to Johan. Lucas also frowned uncomfortably, not believing his ears. The water broke the bank. Eli was aggressive and refused to give in. Get out of the way. Seeing the tense situation, Thea mustered up her courage to interrupt. Made Elle extremely surprised. She wonders what the kid is going to do. Lucas was standing by the window, laughing like a sick man because Thea had dared to stop the two of them earlier, wanting to help the princess. But now I'm stuttering and shaking, not knowing what to make up, so he closes my eyes and takes a risk. Lucas was surprised to know that this was Elle's plan that he had planned for a long time, just to prepare the fruit for him. His hands were covered in sweat, but he still tried to stand straight and lied clearly without blinking an eye. Ellie always wanted to give something to Lucas as a gift, so Limited advised her. That's why she insisted on going to Johan to find rare treasures for him. So now, Lucas stood there laughing all day like a crazy person who just escaped from prison. Ellie can finally set out for Johan, but Alex's face followed her and made her lose interest. She pointed straight at his face, not understanding why Limited brought him along. Among the kids in the dormitory, only Alex is the best, because it was trained by an autistic guy who was pecked by a bird and wanted to go bald. Seeing that, Thea became silent. He felt inferior and had no value other than being an interpreter. That's why they brought that Alex guy. But Ely called him, and then naturally held Thea's hand. In front of him was the princess, who always believed in him. He realized he still had a chance to try and immediately cheered up again. Alex, who had been out for a long time, was as cheerful as a newly released puppy in front of the bustling town scene. Just as he said that, his tail suddenly appeared and started wagging like a country boy who had just come to the city. Suddenly a beastly roar came from Eli's belly. While Alex was teasing her, he was fumbling around in his pocket for something. He had rushed in earlier and didn't have time to prepare something to eat. But Alex thoughtfully prepared delicious bread to invite her. Even though she hated Ellie for being a fake princess, she immediately turned 180 degrees and flattered Limited in front of her. That made him tremble and suppress himself, blaming himself for not doing a good job as a servant beside the princess. But Elle was distracted by the music outside, but just poked her head out to see, caught her eye right away. Wandering musicians. One plays the flute. The one playing the instrument was someone who was quite familiar with Elle from her previous life. Identification characteristics is the music that wants to deafen the listener's ears, but no matter how many times it recurs, it still doesn't change. Unexpectedly, she was lucky and without much effort was able to find their most important milestone. The carriage stopped, right in front of them. She immediately put out her hand. Give that bunch of people a bunch of gold coins. Elle immediately smiled a devilish smile and found it. She was too familiar with the smiling face on the outside, looking like a wandering artist. But in reality, they are human traffickers who kidnap and sell the children of nobles, known as noble assassins. Ely also followed their plan and acted out a play. Thea realized something was fishy here, but Elle's stomach growled, shattering that doubt. Then after their carriage left, the wandering troubadour broke into a smile. That night when he heard a loud noise in the bathroom, Limited is running to check the situation. Elle was beaten until her face turned pale and his limbs went limp. Ely's face was pale. Seeing that the situation seemed serious, Limited decided to go out to buy medicine. He had no choice but to leave her to the two young men to take care of. Elle was now as weak as a banana and had no energy to care about anything, but she couldn't just leave her life in the hands of this crazy guy who wanted to cook snails and porridge for her to eat. Seeing Elle on the ground in pain, but he couldn't do anything but stand there and watch. She just went to the bathroom like that. Even if she fell off the boat, she had to carry the dragon egg close to her. Thea was so worried that she didn't know what to do. Just then, Alex walked out. Seeing Elle's face covered in sweat was so satisfying. She intended to ignore that brat. Then she struggled to open the door. Wait until I get better, then you'll die. But it did not spare the easy Elle and immediately slammed the door of her survival. Seeing that, she ordered it to go away. Then that bastard Alex got his stinky face on and just kept blocking Elle's way, very excited. The more she saw his face, the more her anger exploded. Thea couldn't stand it anymore, so she stepped in to stop that brat. But Alex has always been an unreasonable person. Immediately grabbed Thea's collar. Living to this age, being given so many favors, it still never accepted the truth that Ely was the princess daughter of King Lucas. Just people of low birth are nothing to listen to. He just heard that guy mention the 3 words, barbarian tribe, and his eyes darkened. Just like that, the past days appeared before my eyes. When he was a child, he was always thrown rocks and dirt at me by a group of adults. Because he was so hungry, he took the risk of stealing from them. But just because of that, those people wanted to destroy them, because all foreign races needed to be destroyed. Let him kneel on the cold snow and keep begging them for forgiveness. Even though his tears were flowing, those villains still raised their hands. Pick up a rock to kill him. Remembering that memory made Thea extremely angry. His eyes were the same as that day. Without saying a word, he rushed forward and punched him so hard that his jaw almost broke. Alex couldn't believe that one day he would be slapped in the face by that weakling. Also quickly responded. So the 2 of them rolled around and fought in front of the bathroom door. Block the way. Prevent anyone from going. Suddenly the window opened again. Elle noticed someone and turned to look. Only then did the 2 guys stop when they heard her scream. Ellie is gone. Only a bottle full of strange gas remains. Alex quickly reacted and covered his nose. He looked around but couldn't see you anywhere. Over here she is being carried like a sack. By a kid covered up. He hadn't run far when Alex and Thea were hot on his heels. He couldn't believe that these guys could still be conscious after inhaling anesthetic. Immediately gritted his teeth and ran away. By this time already tired to the point of breathlessness. Vision began to blur, even though seeing the distance between them getting further and further, but Thea's body became extremely tired, probably because of the drug. Elle has also reached her limit. Alex caught up and cursed nonstop. That girl only eats and poops all day. Why are you forcing him to do that? Then he directly took the sword and threw it upwards, then aimed straight at that guy's head and slashed down. In a hurry, he used Elle as a shield, but he didn't expect that she would vomit all over Alex's face. Seeing Alex's handsome face covered in color, she didn't know where to find pants to wear. Limited finally holds a full bag of food. Illusion. Eli will see and feel grateful. But standing there laughing loudly in the middle of the market made everyone afraid that the guy would have a fit and avoid him. But suddenly someone stepped out and interrupted his beautiful dream. The patient's smile became extinguished. Here, thanks to Ellie's heavenly essence, they continued to play tag. Thea at the back still tried to crawl without collapsing, even though she had no more strength to breathe. Visibility was limited, but he never lost sight of the others. Ely doesn't understand what karma he has created to end up in this situation. Remember before, she was also the hero standing above the world saving the world. Now it's become so miserable. Alex can finally touch Ely's feet. Before he could be happy, the other guy tripped and fell. So Alex pulled down his pants, revealing a pair of pants with a winking mouse on it. Go ahead and poke me blind. Suddenly he stopped abruptly. Ellie just buried her head in the ground while Alex buried her beautiful face straight into his peaches. The massacre happened because the guy wanted to pull up his pants. So he turned around and slapped Alex. Pervert. Are you trying to seduce me? Limited hasn't even hit him yet, but this son of a bitch has the guts to attack him right away. The other guy took out his iron flute to block the blow. It can withstand without breaking, but was thrown away. Elle didn't expect this kid to be so good. Thea then ran over. Then everything was handled by Alex. He pressed his sword against the other guy's face. If you want to live, tell me. But suddenly there was a gunshot. It turns out that guy's accomplices have arrived and is restraining Ellie. Thea was shaking to death at this moment. Alex also did not expect that he also had accomplices, even though a gun was pointed at her head. But she could only sigh. Seeing Ely being taken out to intimidate, Alex could only grit his teeth and follow them. Throw down weapons. Then put his hands up in surrender. But the mouse used Alex's own sword to stab him. Thea saw and immediately rushed over. But the leader pulled the whistle and shot him immediately. It all happened in a flash, leaving Ellie no time to react, and both of them were attacked. She stood there, stunned, seeing the A writhing in pain, calling her name. The annoying Alex who saved her was injured right in front of her eyes. Suddenly, the sky and earth changed. A blue magical source appeared on Elle's body. They really made her angry. The lightning Elle summoned with just one hand. At this time, Mouse still did not understand what was going on. Then a beam of light from the sky hit him straight. To the amazement of Alex and Thea, dared to touch her only way to death. She immediately brushed her hands off. When he tied up the whole gang, Pep Baga was struck by lightning and his hands were in tatters, and immediately ran back to Alex, carrying Thea to see the situation. Saw Elle's worried face. He immediately became shocked when he saw her use magic to heal the two children, which made Alex even more suspicious. Normally, normal people cannot use attack and recovery magic at the same time. Even with that 5-star attack just now, how could 7-year-old Ellie do that? While in the process of treatment, she suddenly realized Thea has strange wounds on his legs. He hesitated because when he chased them, he had been aiming at every cell of Thea. To be able to stay awake? Maybe he stabbed himself. But how could I dare tell her such a thing? Then the others, not knowing their place, started to make a ruckus. They immediately compared her to Pleo. Elle's ears itched so much that he electrocuted them to death. Seeing the scene before his eyes, Alex realized that he had poked the fire ant's nest. Ponimo is a magic that can completely change shape. The necessary material is the subject's hair, or the flesh of that person, in a bar. This guy is Kina the Demon. He is a budding mage and also an acquaintance of Limited. But this guy is dressed like a beggar because it's a hot trend. Both of them ate and drank until they were full and talked about everything under the sun. But when Kina mentioned that the Demon King had a daughter, Limited immediately stopped. Everyone wondered if he was married to a human or if it was just an illegitimate child. Listen to that guy keep on digging up their family's private life. Limited can't take it anymore. But the beer glass went down with a bang. Make the other guy scared. He thinks he has done something wrong. But unexpectedly, Limited pulled out a bunch of Ely's pictures and showed them off. With sparkling eyes, he kept talking about how cute she was. At this time, Elle is trying to use the stain of the promise. If they don't promise, they will pay with their lowly lives. The leader immediately shouted and suggested, "Why don't children read fairy tales and learn those evil magics?" Elle immediately used magic to warn them. "Quickly agree or I will shock you to death." Pretending like that, but her body has reached its limit. Before the eyes of the leader is terrible oppression. Despite the dissuasion of his disciples, he should not sign the soul slave contract. The guy could only grit his teeth and agree to promise. When all three were surrounded by her magic, Elle immediately breathed a sigh of relief. A beam of light emitted. The butterfly symbol appeared on their hands and was finally completed. Insight, summoning magic that can allow tracking of targets, no matter where they are. So she immediately removed the ropes and chased them all away. Ely was exhausted and turned back to look at them. But Alex was shaking like a leaf. Ely just called the two children's names and made them jump and use honorifics with her, but different from what she feared. Ely hoped that both of them would know how to cherish themselves and not sacrifice themselves for her like that. Reminded Alex of the hard days of training. Even though it was painful, Limited still did not let it go. Instead, he forced it to stand up and continue practicing swordplay. Alex's tears just fell like rain. Ely really did not expect that there would come a day when this arrogant name will bow to her and say thank you. At that moment, the egg suddenly lit up and began to change color. The egg kept wriggling and squeaking. Still not enough, but Ely still didn't know what it needed. She just needs to know what it is that will satisfy it as long as it can bloom quickly. But the egg became still and motionless. Then a vile face appeared on it asking her for a divorce. Just woke up from a nightmare and saw Limited's face lying on his bed, asking for a kiss. She immediately used all her internal energy to attack that guy. But he is stubborn. No matter what Elle does, he still finds it cute. Made her freeze. What did I just hear? But unexpectedly close. Both Alex and Theo dress like crazy. Last night, Ellie asked Alex to keep what happened a secret, including the fact that she was kidnapped. But she used the excuse of being in a drought and knowing she would chew its bones and swallow it alive to justify herself. Remembering the face of the reincarnated devil of the guy made Alex shiver. On Limited's side, Ellie will find a way to deal with it and wants it to pack up and go to the mansion to stay after returning. That's why now there's a scene where Alex blushes and looks at Ellie like a puppy looking at its owner. Made her surprised, because just one night had changed so drastically. Thea and Alex finally brought the food up. The two of them cooked potatoes together. While Ely still feels guilty for taking advantage of people's kindness, Limited has directly criticized the two children's sincerity, making both of them sad. He added that they should not cook anymore. So he took out a bottle of medicine of unknown origin and gave it to her to drink. But I'm beautiful, I'm not crazy. Because so many things happened, Ely forgot to buy a gift to flatter his father. On the other hand, Lucas is sulking at the mansion, after tweaking for a while. immediately drew a masterpiece of cartoon Ely missing his father and crying. Seeing his lord missing his son, Warren immediately gathered a little sincerity to put on the table a wooden statue carved of Ely. Lucas saw it and had to open his mouth. But Codian thinks it's worse than Lucas's painting. He turned to look at his painting and sat down sadly in a corner of the garden. Even the servants in the mansion remembered her. Lucas held the statue in his hand and also looked forward to the day his daughter returned. Suddenly someone approached Lucas from behind. A girl disguised as a maid rushed towards the devil with a knife. But his eyes flashed. The child was immediately frozen, unable to move. She could be a minion of the devil. Unexpectedly, a demon king like Lucas would one day be attacked by brats who weren't even 100 years old. Her neck was almost cut off and she couldn't breathe. He didn't expect that Lucas still hadn't weakened. She was in more and more pain and screaming. Lucas also thought that he was reaching his twilight years and was about to lose his time, so he crushed her to relieve his anger. Over here, the people are having a great time at the fair. Not only Alex, but also Thea was very excited. Limited was staring at the pictures he had taken. The guy who intended to bring back Ely's appearance to Lucas. Elle still feels lightheaded even now. It seems like she used too much magic. But she still couldn't understand why the egg was glowing then. Then she noticed a flower bracelet. Incredibly beautiful is on display. She immediately remembered the past. Edwin brought her one like that. Even though she wasn't suited for such things, Edwin always looked at her gently. It was the best moment she had ever had. Just remembering Elle's tears fell down. Then she quickly wiped them away. When she saw the other two coming to find her, Thea wondered what she was looking at. But it was just a wreath, which confirmed that Ely had no passion for such cheesy things. Just as they were about to leave, an arm grabbed Elle's shirt. Just turned back. She see a very miserable beggar child.